It is a time of desolation, a time of despair, a time when countless shitty dating games have flooded the net like an ocean of stale dog piss. It is a time without hope. But just as the Hobbit rose to destroy the One Ring, just as Luke Skywalker rose to murder his dad, and just as some four-eyed British kid rose to beat the shit out of an anemic snake Nazi, so too will a new hero rise to answer the call. The call of anime dicks. This is the story of Otome-Nia Season 3!
Wait, what happened in the end of Season 2? Alright, so let's face it, fancy intros are pretty overdone, and I've been absent for about this long, so, in the next episode I'll actually take the time to explain this absence, but before then, let's just talk about dads. Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator, is a light-hearted visual novel that's gained an immense amount of hype since its announcement, partially due to its inclusive, queer-friendly nature, but mostly because the guy who made Metal Gear Awesome and the guy who sang No Reason Boner helped to fund it. You play as a single father who moves to a street inhabited mainly by other single fathers, and to get you out making friends instead of lurking around the house watching crappy reality shows all day, your daughter drags you to a barbecue, and then introduces you to Dad Book.
You got dads!
So you stay in touch with all your new dad buddies. Over the course of a few days, you engage in bragging contests, fishing contests, fixing stuff contests, mini golf, and of course, hot dad on dad action. So I know this game isn't technically an Otome game, but I can't pass up a sweet taste of burly Osans. Besides, this game is really popular right now, and I need dem YouTube views after this 3 months absence. So, is DDADS a wonderful piece of mature gay storytelling, or just a soulless, overhyped pile of crap drenched in gotcha-moochie goodness? Well, let's start by talking about the dads.
Characters Romance.
First up is Joseph Christensen, loving husband of Mary Christensen, father of Chris, Krish, and the creepy twins Christian and Christy. Get it? He loves Jesus. He's a youth pastor who avoids all forms of sin and vice, except for an inexplicable obsession with Jimmy Buffett, sweet tequila drinks, sailing, and generic summer beach imagery. He's an absolutely perfect human being who definitely doesn't have any flaws or deep dark secrets, because they're currently glitched out of the game. Next up is Matt, a socially awkward hipster barista who loves all kinds of shit you've never heard of. He's a down-to-earth sweetheart whose genuine nature makes everyone around him fall helplessly in love. His soft smile hides a deep, lingering sadness that can only be cured with the power of love. And the power of terrible music. His daughter Carmencita is adorable, peppy, and never really does anything. Craig is our MC's old college buddy, an exuberant former frat boy whose claim to fame was doing insanely stupid drinking stunts. Craig's cleaned up his act though, and now he's a clean-living, kale-munching father of 3 whose main hobbies include crunches, squats, and coaching young girls to play sports ball. He also looks like a world-famous underwear model, despite the baby glued to his chest most of the time, and spends a depressing amount of time pretending not to notice all the thirsty single moms who want to give him a keg stand. Or maybe a Craig stand? Huh? Because they're balancing on his dick! Next we have Hugo, a stiff and serious school professor whose passion for teaching does nothing to sway his surly students, who all think he's kind of pathetic. His love for classic literature mirrors his own poetic soul. His sweet, romantic nature is absolutely charming. And his son, who he honest to God named Ernest Hemingway, is the world's biggest turd demon, who likes to throw rocks at drunk people and sneak cigarettes behind his dad's back. Hugo also has a secret geeky obsession, but for once, I'm not going to spoil what it is, because the reveal is just too cute to ruin. Damien is painfully weird. He's a high-strung gothic preener who spends 90% of his time in character as a melodramatic caricature who's first seen bitching at a Hot Topic employee for how unauthentic the star's merchandise is. He's converted his plain, suburban McMansion into the Addams Family house, complete with spooky gargoyles, a haunted library, and a teenage son who he actually named Lucian. Somehow, though, he's actually kind of cute. As you get closer to this Lord of Darkness, you learn the truth behind his odd behavior and the reasons why he feels the need to constantly project such an over-the-top image. I mean, would it really surprise you to find out this guy's a huge nerd? Brian, or should I say Bara-Iron, is a friendly, jovial, huggable bear of a man whose big-bellied laughter is infectiously charming, which really pisses you off for some reason. He's a sweet, funny, down-to-earth guy who loves his daughter to death and takes extra time to share his hobbies with you, which is somehow absolutely infuriating. Basically, he's flirting with you, but due to your toxic case of bravado, you interpret his heartfelt, friendly advances as viciously insulting challenges to your masculinity. His daughter Daisy is a chunky, plaid-wearing neurodivergent cinnamon roll. She is the cutest daughter, and I will not stand to hear otherwise. Finally, we have Robert. Robert is a character who was clearly designed specifically for me. He's a gruff, grizzled grifter in his mid-40s who likes whiskey, knives, and rough, anonymous sex. His other hobbies include ghost hunting, motorcycles, classic movies, and pineapple on pizza. He's dangeresque to the extreme, yo. And truly, he is the perfect man. And you get the option to hop on his dick right at the beginning of the game! Which, yeah, leads to his bad, depressing ending. But I'm Kid! Like, I can resist instant sex! Naturally, this badass has a secret sensitive side, largely dealing with his daughter, who, at 25 years old, is the oldest of the dad's kids and a bombshell lesbian badass in her own right. You know, I really need a shorter way of saying, this character looks like X, but is actually a massive dork. Just think how much shorter all of my videos would be if I could just go, dork, 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 done.
Gameplay.
Dream Daddy's a game that's quite frankly loaded with gimmicks. Some of them work, and some of them don't. First up is the game's Build That Dad Builder, which allows a range of customization options for you to painstakingly craft your protagonist. You could be slim, fat, muscular, naked, fancy, trans, Goku, or an abomination. For my main playthrough, I chose to be an irreverent, clumsy hippie dad with a deeply spiritual side and a man bun. While I love the idea of the dad builder, it just seems kind of pointless. All the effort you put into creating your perfect dadvatar leaves you with a single static, non-emoting bus sprite that pops up in the lower left of the screen and clashes really badly with the rest of the game's art. Of course, the game's main focus is using Dadbook to set up dates with one of the 7 eligible dads. You click on a dad's profile, send him a message, and you're off on a date. Visual novel choices pop up here and there, with immediate results depending on your degree of dadly seduction skills. A bad choice results in a thick black mole of pure disgust, a good choice results in a shower of hearts, and a really good choice results in a shower of glistening phallic eggplants. At the end of each date, you're given a rating on the choices you made. There's a lot of stats there, but the only thing that actually matters is your letter grade. You can date multiple dads at once, and at certain points, having flirted with other dads will unlock new scenes, but once you go on a certain dad's 3rd date, you're locked into his ending. Either a good or a bad ending, depending on the grades you've been getting. In between the dates, you're shown scenes with your daughter Amanda, and given choices on how to deal with her teenage girl problems. But these are largely identical throughout all the routes, and they don't really affect the story much, aside from whether you get a bonus good Amanda ending, or a slightly worse okay Amanda ending, which, like many things in this game, is currently glitched the fuck out. And then there are the minigames. Oh god, the minigames. About half the routes have these little random Unity games that are absolutely fucking terrible. They look like cheap, ugly congregate crap, the controls are janky and confusing, and they don't even tell you how to play the damn things. Honestly, the only one that gives you any kind of instructions is Brian's fishing game, which is just Candy Crush, which everyone already knows how to play. I hate the minigames. A lot. Especially the goddamn golfing game, which has you trying trick shots with an ever-decreasing power meter while your shot direction flails around like a blackout drunk. Also, fuck the piano playing game. That one's ass too. One final note. Since the game is made with Unity, rather than a typical visual novel engine, there's a lot of things that are built into most traditional engines that just aren't here. There's no option to change the speed of text or balance the volume of voices, music, and sound effects. Worse, though, is the lack of a skip red feature, making subsequent playthroughs really tedious. The fast forward button they gives you speeds through everything, whether you've read it or not, meaning that if you don't have incredibly precise timing, you'll end up missing things. 9 times out of 10, every time I hit the fast forward button, I fucked up royally.
Presentation.
The character art is damn gorgeous. Each character looks sexy as hell, as well as being drastically distinct from each other. They're cute, emotive, and downright awesome, which feels kinda weird since most of the game's backgrounds are sketchy and vague. The UI too is cute and slick, though it feels pretty sparse in terms of functionality, and the music is... music. It's bright, peppy, and utterly forgettable. The only track that sticks out to me is the game's main theme, which is mainly because of how desperately I tried to avoid hearing it. Dream, Daddy, something about dicks. Dream, Daddy, I can't believe I'm playing this. It's not a horrible song by any means, but something about the half-whispered Owl City-esque lyrics just drives home the fact that this is a game that a large portion of the internet sees as a massive joke. The voice acting is... well, when I heard that most of the cast were popular YouTubers doing the voiceovers, I assumed the characters would be actually, you know, voice acted, but instead you get what I call sound emojis, where the characters just say random things or make weird noises in response to something in the game, ranging from Craig's suggestive oohs, ahs, and bruhs to Joseph's inexplicable fake cussing.
Oh, Kirk Douglas!
It is pretty disappointing that you don't get to hear the dialogue, because the dialogue is pretty well written and occasionally funny as hell. And fast-forwarding through a scene just sounds like a hilarious, awkward cartoon sex scene. Ooh, ah, oh my, yes. And even then, the voice lines vary drastically in terms of quality, depending on which dad is saying them. Hugo's in particular sound about as bad as my first few episodes of Otome-Nia.
Final thoughts.
I feel like I've been pretty harsh on this game, and it's not entirely fair, but to be honest, it's hard to vocalize exactly how I feel about the dads. Like I said, some of the dialogue is genuinely hilarious, filled with terrible dad puns and random McElroy references, and it can be very touching at times, like when Robert finally drops his knife-wielding facade and opens up to you about his insecurities. And more positive depictions of LGBT characters is always a good thing. On the other hand, the routes are painfully short. It only took me about 6 hours to date all 7 dads, and that doesn't provide a lot of opportunity for real depth and romance. Most of the dad-on-dad hookups seem sudden and awkwardly forced. The entire game just feels rushed in a lot of ways. And then there are the bugs. At the time of writing, the game's current build suffers from frequent crashes, sprites teleporting, and, this. There are achievements that fail to trigger, and even 2 entire endings which no one can seem to access. So to sum up, Dream Daddy is a beautiful, queer-friendly game that's full of charming moments and bizarre missteps in equal measure. It's like a delicious slice of rainbow-colored sponge cake, except they forgot to put any baking soda in it. It's got cute dialogue and pop culture references, but also some fairly painful moments, especially an extended subplot about how the indie band who sung the game's ending theme are the greatest, most underrated musicians ever. This game is charming, tacky, awkward, funny, deep, hollow, and just kind of mind-boggling. This game defies definition for me, which is a problem seeing how I've spent, 15 minutes talking about it. So here's what I'll say. Wait a few months. Wait until the game's on sale and all the bugs have been ironed out, and you'll have a cute gay game about dudes being dads and dads being dorks.